Hi, it's Tom here from FDS, and we are back with another test. And this is the startup of Big Hammershot Shootout. Now, Hammershot's an immensely popular sidearm. Some people primary them. There are lots of kits available for them. There are 3 different springs available for them. And the aim of this test will be to decide, first of all, what gets the best velocity out of springs, springs with spacers, stock springs with spacers, or expensive kits. Now, the only kit I will not be testing is the Orange Modworks Hammer and Sear kit. I don't own one of those, and I'm not spending $45 to find out. I do, however, have their spring. The other things I will not be changing is I'll not be changing anything except the spring itself. So the AR is still intact, the dart posts are still intact. This is a completely stock, almost box fresh Hammershot. I must thank brick nerfer Franksy for the loan of his Hammershot. Obviously he's going to get a free mod, so he's not that unhappy. But I've got to go through and just use this one. So first of all, we'll start with spacers, and here's how you do the spacers.
So we're going to take a quick look at why that mod works, the spacers. And first of all, here's what I use to make spacers. This is just a standard piece of British Hepworth pipe, which is a plastic plumbing pipe, and it's 15mm outside diameter. So if you're in the EU, pretty much any metric water pipe that's not waste, like freshwater pipe, will work. And I just cut 2 pieces. I've got a 6mm and a 12mm spacer. And if you're in America, they're obviously 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and you guys have your CPVC type stuff that works. So first of all, let's look at why it works. So if we look at the Hammershot, I'll just cop this one. You can see here, there's the mainspring, and currently it's not actually very well compressed. You can see that there's space between the rings, and obviously to get the maximum power out of this spring, we're going to want to compress those rings further. So the spacer goes in here and offers a varying degree of compression on the rings. What we don't know is how much compression is going to give us maximum power. Now, I'm indebted to brick nerfer Northwind for having done a bit of preliminary research on this, and he got more power out of a small spacer, so I'm going to see whether that's true, and also how much of a small spacer I think is probably open to more debate. But I'm going to put the spacer in, so I'll show you how it works. We'll start with the big one because I'm going to go bigger first. So I'm just going to quickly fit the spacer under the rod, and you can do that by compressing this spring and shoving it into place, or you can take this off and take that away and then put it on and put it back together that way. I like to just compress it normally. You can use needle nose pliers if you've got longer ones. Like mine aren't long enough, but I'm just going to compress the spring by hand and chuck this in. You don't need to see me doing that because it involves lots of grunting because it's quite a big spacer, so just give me a minute. Now, it's Better Nerf by Science, a now defunct Nerf blog that put me onto this mod first. And there you go, the spacer installed. And if we look underneath, you've got to make sure that your spacer allows room for the rod here to pass through it, and that the spring is seated firmly. So if we now look, you can see that that is much more compressed. It's not quite full compression, there's a tiny bit left there. So this was just under 1/2 inch, this one. So I wasn't too worried about that. I'm quite happy for that. It's a lot more than there was before, and the prime is much harder. Now, the downside about big spacers is obviously they make the prime more difficult. You can rectify the catch on these if you take a little bit of material out here in the shell, both sides, just in front of the trigger, 1mm or 2, and then up inside the plastic shell underneath. I'll just see if I can get it to the camera, 1 minute. So this piece here in the inner shell, just take 1mm or 2 off that piece as well, and that then allows the trigger to move further forwards, and it allows the sear on the trigger to fully engage with the hammer up here. So that's what you want in this kind of like dogtooth catch like this. You want to allow the trigger to move further forward. So if you're having problems, that mod also works for blaster parts for their kit. If you're having catch problems, that's why, because their bits are actually slightly physically larger. So do just shave some of those bits off and allow the trigger to move further forwards. Right, now back to the Chrono Test.
So you've seen how spacers work. Now we can get on to the Chrono Test. So brand new pack of Elite darts first of all, which I'll open up. This will be a 30 dart shoot to get a statistically significant sample. I will use 1 set of darts for spacers, 1 set of darts for springs, and possibly 1 set of darts for the blaster parts one, we shall see. Okay, first off, this is the 12mm or 1/2 inch spacer, and we'll do that one first and see what we get. Right, that's the half-inch spacer. I'm going to go change the spacer for a 1/4 inch. We'll reuse the same darts because they've only been fired once, and then we'll go on and do the 1/4 inch spacer, and then I'll do a roundup of the spacer results. Right, start with the figures for the standard spring with a 1/2 inch or 12mm spacer. So we have a high of 80, low of 66, average 73, extreme spread of 14, standard deviation of 4. Stock spring with a 6mm or 1/4 inch spacer, 76 high, low of 68, average of 72, extreme spread of 8, standard deviation of 2.